Well, by definition, an arsenal is a place that makes and stores weapons, and that's one way Rock Island made its mark in World War I. Steve has that story in this week's edition of Rock Island Arsenal Inside the Gates.
Just after the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, the Rock Island Arsenal got a shot to make a rifle that would end up in the hands of hundreds of thousands of U.S. soldiers. And as we learned, this gun is loaded with a lively legacy. The Springfield Model 1903 rifle is a history buff's bullseye.
The Model 1903 was one of the primary weapons used by soldiers or doughboys during the First World War.
But its path to the rifle rack of fame began well before the war.
The rifle is called the Springfield because it actually was designed and originally produced at Springfield, Massachusetts at Springfield Armory.
In 1904, the folks in Washington decided to make the rifle in Rock Island as well. In fact, the very room where the museum is now was once loaded with machinery, one of two buildings here used to make the famous rifle.
Approximately 235,000 were manufactured from 1904 to 1913, and then another 4,000 were manufactured during World War I.
It could fire 5 shots, one at a time, before reloading.
We don't open the display case very often at all.
For good reason.
This is serial number 1 for Rock Island Arsenal.
Serial number 1 is literally one of a kind. In fact, you can't even touch it with your bare hands.
The Springfield 1903 design borrows heavily from the design of the K98 Mauser rifle.
So what's the K98 Mauser? It's the primary rifle used by our enemy in the war, Germany. Turns out we were using their patents without permission.
Mauser did take us to court, and we lost the case. We had to pay royalties to the Mauser Rifle Company for using their patents. And we did that all the way through World War I.
That's right. We were fighting the Germans, paying them money during the war, and using their own technology against them. And in the end, those rifles made in Rock Island helped the U.S. win the First World War. After their military usefulness had passed, the government sold a lot of the Model 1903s to civilians who modified them to use as hunting rifles. Steve Long, CBS 4 News.
Making the 03 Springfield here gives the arsenal ties to one of the most famous guns ever. All right, here's the story. In 1904, 70 people were transferred from Springfield to Rock Island to get production of the rifle set up here. One of those was Captain John Thompson. He was the first officer in charge of making the 03 Springfield here, but he's best known for what he did after he moved on.
Later in his career, he designed the Thompson submachine gun. That was an issue item for the armed forces, and it was sold on the civilian market. It's the machine gun you see in a lot of old gangster movies.
That Tommy gun is famous not only for its role in real life, but romanticized on the big screen, synonymous with the golden age of mobsters. Next week, Steve has an inside look at the Arsenal Museum, which has a fascinating story of its own.